Miscellaneous minds, never explaining the minds. Devilish grin for my alias, aliens who respond. Peddling sin, thinking maybe when you get old you realize I'm not gonna fold or demise. I don't smoke crack, motherfucker, I sell it.
What is going on, everybody? This is the Miscellaneous Minds podcast. I'm your co-host, Boom on Gun through the cat the hands of your big fight back. And to my left, here's the main man assistant there, the man that makes the fat stacks. Together we form the dynamic duo that won't die. Deadly Antias run, spicier content than your girl's OnlyFans.
What is going on, everybody? Before we get to tonight's topic, please make sure to like, comment, hate, subscribe, DM us about the bullshit, and with that, let's get right into it. So we have two big fights on our hands this upcoming weekend for UFC 308. The first one, we got Khamzat going up against Bobby Knuckles. This fight is the second time we've rescheduled, if you guys recall. This fight was actually already supposed to happen, but Khamzat pulled out. I know a lot of guys have been going in on Khamzat because he's actually pulled out of quite a few fights. So here's hoping that this is the final time we actually get this fight, because I do think it's going to be a good fight. Listen, I have said this many times when we've discussed Bobby Knuckles. I feel like if Adesanya didn't exist, Bobby Knuckles would be the champion and reigning for quite some time, if I'm being honest with you. Bobby Knuckles has continuously beat the guys in his division over and over and over again. Always comes back up, and unfortunately, he just can't grab the brass ring anytime Izzy is champion. Now, with that being said, Khamzat is no slacker. Now, when Khamzat can and finally does make it to the ring, he's a beast, man. He's a beast. I know a lot of people have started falling out of love with Khamzat because of all the shenanigans, all the pullouts of fights, so on and so forth. So I completely get it. For that reason, he's actually fallen as far as the stock that I have for him as well. That being said, if I'm being 100% honest, I think that Robert Whittaker always has that dog in him. I think I'm going to lean towards Robert Whittaker as being the winner of this one. Don't get me wrong. I don't think Khamzat's going to make it easy for Robert Whittaker at all. But with that being said, I do feel that Robert Whittaker has, he said it himself, he's good everywhere. And he really is. He's a good wrestler. He's good at striking. He really does it all. Again, just because, he can't beat an elite striker like Israel Adesanya doesn't mean he's not good at what he does. He's very, very good. That being said, listen, I'll be honest with you, I am a little split on this one just because I do think, obviously, Khamzat is a phenomenal wrestler. I do think if it goes to wrestling, and that's more than likely what Khamzat's going to do, it's definitely going to be one of those things that's going to lean heavy towards Khamzat. But I'm hoping that Bobby Knuckles has enough in the tank, which I do believe he does. I believe some of the health issues that Khamzat has been dealing with are going to come into play, and I do believe that Bobby Knuckles is going to take this match. What do you think about that, my man?
Whether we have fan stock losing interest in Khamzat over the years because of the myriad of health issues and stoppages and pulls out of fights and rescheduling of fights, even though again, a lot of fan interest has been lost with him over the years, I do think, unfortunately, a lot of people discredit him for his wrestling ability. But look, whether you lost interest in him or not, or don't like him as a person anymore, I just feel like his antics aren't really you're up to speed. The fact of the matter is, Khamzat still has demonic wrestling, like both in speed and in offense, and that is going to be the one big hurdle that Robert Whittaker is going to have to overcome. But again, like you said, Robert Whittaker is absolutely a great all-arounder. If Khamzat was going to be an A+ in wrestling, I feel like Robert Whittaker would be an A-, which, again, whether or not he's not phenomenal at wrestling, he at the very least has a good enough acumen to be able to be ready for somebody like Khamzat. Now, whether or not that's enough for Khamzat to be able to take it to Robert Whittaker and even take it down is the big question that I have at the end of the night. But personally, if I were to stake my money going into this fight, I would personally have it going towards Robert Whittaker, but I do think that they are both going to take each other to decision. I do think it's going to be a unanimous decision for Robert Whittaker. Robert Whittaker isn't going to let up easy on the gas to Khamzat. I feel like Khamzat is going to respond in kind. He's not going to let up easy on the wrestling. It's going to be a contentious matchup for both of them. None of them are going to give any sort of give whatsoever, but I do think Robert Whittaker is the man to bring it to a decision in a very contentious matchup with Khamzat here.
Yeah, if I'm being honest with you, I think you're right that I think especially in the first couple rounds, Khamzat's gonna go, pedal to the metal. But I do think that Bobby Knuckles has more in the tank and more in the experience to be able to really negate that. I think, yes, he's going to weather the storm. I think, after a few rounds or so, Khamzat is going to tire, which he's been shown to do even against Kamaru Usman. And I think that's when Bobby Knuckles is going to start hitting the gas himself, and I think that's where that win is going to come in. I don't think it's going to be a knockout or anything like that. I do think it's going to go to the decision, but I do think it's going to go Bobby's Knuckles' way. So we'll see. It's going to be a good fight regardless. It'll be interesting to watch what happens. With that being said, let's go on to the next fight. And the fight that I think most people are excited about, we have Max Holloway going up against Ilia Topuria. Listen, they've both said, Ilia Topuria said that he's going to do the point down to the ring and let's box it out in the first 10 seconds of the fight. He challenged Max Holloway. He's like, hey, anybody can do it in the last 10 seconds. Let's do it in the first 10 seconds. There's a little bit of, if I'm being honest, there's a little bit of genius to that. I do think Max Holloway has a granite chin. He takes a lot of damage, and the man just keeps coming. That being said, there's a little bit of truth to what Ilia Topuria said. I do think that it is much different when your opponent has a full gas tank to be able to throw, them big punches. And by all accounts, by everyone that's discussed it, Ilia Topuria has a hell of a punch. So I do think it's a little bit of strategy on Ilia Topuria's way. I think he'd rather fight those first 10 seconds and those last 10 seconds in the middle of the ring, pointing down. So I do think there's a little bit of strategy to that. And if Max Holloway plays into it, I don't think it's going to be great for Max Holloway. That being said, listen, I think Max Holloway is smarter than that. I don't think Max Holloway by any means is a dumb individual. I think he's very, very smart. He's very tactical. Sometimes, the testicular fortitude gets a little bit too much to Max Holloway, and I feel like it could potentially not end well for him. But listen, I want to be like everybody else. I want to believe Max Holloway is going to be the one to do it. I want to believe that Max Holloway is going to put Ilia Topuria in his place. And the reason I say that like that is because, listen, I have nothing against Ilia Topuria. That being said, I do see why a lot of people do. He's a very cocky individual. He speaks very braggadociously about himself. And I understand why a lot of people dislike the guy. That being said, listen, you got to sell yourself, man. You got to sell yourself. So it is what it is. I'm not the biggest fan of Ilia Topuria, but I understand the theory. I understand the tactics that he's trying to play. And if I'm being honest with you, I think if Max Holloway plays into them, I do think Ilia Topuria is going to run away with it. That being said, I hope he doesn't. I'm going to lean Max Holloway as the winner because I feel like he has enough gusto. I feel like he has enough fire. I feel like his chin will hold up perfectly fine up against an Ilia Topuria, and I feel like that's what's really going to carry him. So we'll see how it goes, man. We'll see how it goes. What do you think about that, my man?
I do think Ilia Topuria leaning into the Max Holloway gambit of pointing down to the middle of the ring and calling it in the first 10 seconds. I feel like it has a double-edged sword to the effect. And what I mean by that is that I feel like Ilia Topuria calling Max Holloway to the middle of the ring and saying, oh, it's easy to do it in the last 10 seconds. Let's do it in the first 10 seconds. I feel like it has a double play to it. For one thing, here's what I think is going to happen. Ilia Topuria is going to call Max Holloway down to the middle of the ring and go in for a good 10 seconds of throwing haymakers, throwing everything at the wall, and including the kitchen sink, just to be able to say, look, I called out Max Holloway didn't call out me. And we'll say if it somehow goes into the championship rounds, if Max Holloway does it, Ilia Topuria can at least to himself say, I don't need to, I already did it. Which I think he's trying to cancel out Max Holloway's entire gamut of pointing to the ring and basically saying, look, we already did it. I don't have to do it anymore. So I think with that, I think with Max Holloway, I don't think it's necessarily that it was a gamut that he was trying to pull. I think it was a happy circumstance that anytime that he does the pointing down to the ring, that usually the fighters have already run out their gas tank, especially in the case with Justin Gaethje with his recent fight. I think, especially with Justin Gaethje being a short distance fighter, usually in the later rounds, he doesn't do so hot. I think it has the added circumstance of making Max Holloway look like a badass and throwing everything in the ring, and also catching his opponents that don't really have a phenomenal gas tank to basically play into Max Holloway's gambits of throwing everything and not having most of it land. Again, like Justin Gaethje. So I do think Ilia Topuria is trying to take the rug out from under Max Holloway and try to call him out to the beginning of the round. And basically saying, look, I played your game and I even called you out to the game. I don't have to play your game anymore. Now you have to play into my game. which, again, hopefully Max Holloway is not going to take the bait, because I feel like if Max Holloway takes the bait, then Ilia Topuria can have credence to say that he doesn't have to take the bait for Max Holloway. At least that's how I think the game is going to play out. If Max is smart about it, I don't think he's going to play into that game. But at the same time, if Ilia is smart about it, he's not going to play into Max's. So it's very much a mind game of what's going to happen. I would like to think that Max Holloway would be smarter than that and not take the bait. But I think, unfortunately, at the end of the day, gambit or not, I think Ilia Topuria is, going to take it to Max Holloway. I don't think it's going to go to a KO or a TKO or anything like that. I think, again, Ilia Topuria is going to take him to a decision. He's going to do the I think he's going to do the crowd boring move of taking him to a wrestling decision and not playing into Max Holloway's gambit. As much as he'd want to, I think he's doing that, again, just to take the rug out from under his feet. That's what I think anyway.
Listen, man, I'll be honest with you. The more the fight gets closer, the more I think that Ilia Topuria is gonna try and pull some sneak shit and try to really, really beat Max Holloway at his own game. I wouldn't be surprised if he did what you said. That's one of the things that I actually touched on before. That being said, I feel like he's really trying to goad Max Holloway into doing the first 10 seconds, which I think Ilia Topuria has a little bit of an advantage there. I think he's trying to play that tactfully. I think he's trying to play that off very smoothly. And I feel like it could potentially work out for Ilia Topuria. That being said, I want to believe, man. I want to believe that Max Holloway is going to pull it off and pull it off his way. I really hope that Max Holloway doesn't take the bait that Ilia Topuria is constantly down. Even in the interviews where they've had very recently, Ilia Topuria has been very dismissive, very mocking of Max Holloway. And don't get me wrong, he shows him respect. But he basically says, look, man, I'm leveled above you. At least that's the way his attitude comes off. So it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see. I've seen so many memes. Everybody wants Max Holloway to win, myself included. You'd love to see that for someone as good a person as he is, for someone who's always really truly cared about the fans. There's a lot of fighters that say that, but he really is a fan-friendly fighter. So I really hope that he gets that victory, that win. We'll see how it goes. It's going to be interesting. Definitely tune in for the fight. And with that being said, make sure to like, comment, hate, subscribe, DM us about the bullshit, and
Until next time, get rest and stay blessed. We'll see you in the next one.